Who gave a civilian access to military-grade rifles? The sarcasm cut through the air like a shot as a petite woman adjusted her posture at Fort Brixton's firing line. Disdainful eyes watched her. One more outsider in a place that demanded more than presence to belong. She didn't meet their gaze. She didn't have to. A flick of her sleeve, a faded tattoo half revealed. The SEAL Team 9 trident brought the range to an uneasy silence. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Even the grizzled commander mid-stride paused, confusion flickering across his face. Who was this woman? And why had a weathered insignia caused a man who'd stared down death to freeze? Riley Shaw, age 32, had perfected the art of being invisible. Years ago, she had been a ghost of a different sort, one whispered about in briefing rooms and buried deep within redacted reports. She'd worn the trident with distinction, survived where others had fallen, and vanished long before her name could become public. Now, she worked in obscurity, repairing weapons for weekend hobbyists in a local shop that had no idea what true combat demanded. Her discharge papers, neat, clinical, deliberately vague, said nothing of lives saved or secrets kept. The pages spoke only of protocol, not of sacrifice. Today was different. Marcus, an old friend and former comrade, had dragged her to the base range. You miss it, Shaw. Just admit it. Come watch. After repeated refusals, she finally gave in, part curiosity, part something more complicated. Marines in uniform moved briskly through marksmanship routines, full of energy and pride, simulating warfare they'd never tasted. Riley stayed at the edge, trying not to attract notice. But a lone woman in civilian gear at a military range was hard to overlook, especially one her size, barely over 5'4", holding herself like she might tip over from a rifle's recoil. Mind if I give this a go? She asked softly, motioning toward an idle M for resting nearby. The range officer eyed her outfit, shrugged. Go for it. Just don't hurt yourself. She picked up the carbine with fluidity that didn't belong to someone unfamiliar with its weight. Her hands moved without hesitation. Check, load, ready. No wasted effort. She took a stance and drew a slow breath, aligning herself with a 200-meter target. No warm-ups. No corrections. Just steady aim and breath control drilled into her through endless repetition and risk. 5 shots fired in under 3 seconds. The sound rang clean, precise. Each trigger pull mechanical, purposeful. Not a single round wasted. When it ended, she lowered the rifle, exhaled calmly, and stepped away. Downrange, the target bore a single hole. All 5 bullets clustered perfectly at dead center. Silence. Then whispers. Lucky, someone mumbled, but the disbelief in his tone betrayed the truth. That shot group didn't come from luck. It came from war. Riley remained quiet. She'd learned long ago that silence disarmed skepticism faster than protest. Let them wonder. Let them guess. As she adjusted the rifle again, her sleeve shifted just slightly, revealing more of the tattoo. The ink was faded, but unmistakable. The SEAL Team 9 emblem, with faint scar lines running alongside. The kind of scarring that didn't come from training accidents, but from hellish conditioning most people never survived. Commander Blake Harrison had been walking past when the rifle report drew his attention. He turned, planning to commend a skilled shooter. But then he saw the tattoo. He stopped cold. Around the target area, younger Marines murmured. Fluke, one said. She probably spends more time taking selfies than shooting. Another added with a laugh. Still, Riley didn't respond. But inside, something stirred. Memories, once boxed away, began to surface. Darkness, orders, lies that had hung on her aim. Mockery didn't faze her. Not anymore, but still echoed. A tall female Marine approached, swaggering. I bet you binge action movies and think you know tactics. Laughter followed. Easy, careless cruelty. They saw a woman pretending. They didn't see the sniper whose shot once redirected an entire operation in hostile territory. They didn't see the marks earned in blood and silence. But they would. Blake Harrison couldn't shake what he'd seen. The trident, the grouping, the stillness. It wasn't just impressive, it was surgical. It rattled something loose in the hardened corners of his memory. He found Marcus lingering by the bench racks and barked. That woman. Who brought her? Marcus gave a casual shrug, though his eyes betrayed caution. Riley Shaw. Civilian now, but she's more qualified than half your battalion. You want to check her DD 214? Harrison narrowed his eyes. I want to know what she's doing on my range. Marcus paused, debating. You ever hear of Operation Cold Dagger? The commander's jaw flexed. That was a name buried beneath layers of top-secret ink. He didn't respond. Marcus stepped in closer. She was there. Not in the file, but in the shadows behind the file. The part you're not cleared to read. Harrison's gaze drifted toward the woman, now methodically cleaning the rifle she'd just used. Her hands were calm, practiced. It wasn't the shooting that unnerved him. It was how she moved before and after. You brought a ghost into my house, Harrison muttered. Marcus smirked. Maybe. Or maybe she never really left it. Later that evening, the storm rolled in, hard and fast. Shaw had made it back to her apartment above the gun shop she worked at part-time. The room was sparsely decorated, a half-lived-in place full of controlled chaos. Maps on one wall, a punching bag hanging crooked in the corner. A dusty bookshelf of field manuals and fiction. No photos, no memories on display. She peeled off her hoodie, revealing the faded scars across her shoulder and ribs. A ghost map of bullet trails and shrapnel kisses. She caught herself in the mirror. Still breathing. Still standing. But was she still her? A knock at the door broke her trance. Marcus leaned in, soaked from the rain. They want to see you again. No, she said, automatically stepping back. It's not a request. Riley's face hardened. Tell them I'm done. He didn't flinch. They're not asking you to go back in. They need an analyst on site. 1 week tops. No field. You know how that goes. I know how you go, he replied. You'll say no until you say yes. 3 days later, Riley stood at the edge of a new perimeter, Camp Vesper, a Black Ops forward operating post deep in a wooded government zone. It wasn't the structure or security that gave her pause. It was the smell, pine and cordite, the scent of unfinished business. A woman met her at the gate, clipboard in hand, businesslike and brisk. Riley Shaw, you're cleared through level 5. No weapons. No unscheduled access to strategic maps. And if you break protocol, I won't. Riley cut in. Where's the data room? The woman hesitated. Down this corridor. You're supporting a project under Commander Harrison. Of course. The universe wasn't without its dark humor. The data room was a vault disguised as a lab, humming with servers, maps, encrypted feeds, looping combat footage from unmanned scouts. Riley's task: identify pattern anomalies and insurgent tactics across 3 border zones. But what she saw was more disturbing. The insurgents weren't reacting. They were anticipating. They're baiting us, she muttered under her breath, scrubbing through infrared footage. We're walking into staged responses. She highlighted a sequence, zooming in. Same retreat angles. Same feigned panic. Always leading patrols into comms dead zones. She printed her findings and stormed to Harrison's office. He looked up, half expecting her. You're supposed to send reports, not deliver them like a courier. You're sending people into traps, she said, dropping the papers. He scanned the first page. His brow furrowed, then cleared, not with denial, but recognition. We suspected this, he admitted. Couldn't prove it. You can now. He looked at her again. Really looked. You should have stayed in. I did, she said quietly. Longer than I should have. He tapped the page. What would you do? She didn't hesitate. Pull back units. Set counterbait. Turn the pattern on them. And who do you trust to lead that? She hesitated. Not out of fear, but out of certainty. She knew who. She didn't want to say it. You need someone who knows both the pattern and the battlefield. You. Silence stretched between them. Finally, she nodded. The next day, Riley stood in front of an operations team half her age. They sized her up, warily, uncertain whether to trust the woman who looked like she belonged in a yoga class more than a kill zone. Then she spoke. Your enemy doesn't just want to kill you. They want to make you doubt each step before it lands. They'll use your playbook against you. So we're burning the book. You're going to move like them. Think like them. Hunt them. By the end of her briefing, they were silent. Not out of obedience, but belief. It was the first time she'd felt it in years. Command. The op was greenlit 48 hours later. They called it Operation Mirror Hook. Not because they expected to hook the enemy, but because Riley was about to show them their own reflection. She wasn't leading this op with boots. She was leading it with ghosts. Her team? A hand-picked unit of field assets from various commands, most considered too unpredictable or unorthodox for traditional combat leadership. That was exactly why she chose them. The youngest, Petty Officer Wes Tanner, was a drone jockey with a smart mouth and a kill ratio that earned him 2 commendations and 3 reprimands. Then there was Sergeant Noah Daz, a former Signals intel officer who could crack frequencies while blindfolded. Rumor was she hadn't left her bunk without a sidearm since her last deployment. Nobody asked why. And Andre Malik, a field medic who'd lost a leg in Kandahar and returned 6 months later with a prosthetic and a vendetta. All of them had been used by the system. Now, they were about to weaponize that experience. Before dawn, Riley stood in front of a projected map. 3 zones, multiple safe house pings, and 1 line drawn in red. This isn't to seek and destroy. This is seek, mimic, invert, she said, tapping the line. They've grown confident. Predictable. They think we only follow. So we make them follow us. Wes scoffed. You want us to be bait? No, Riley said coolly. I want us to look like bait. There's a difference. The convoy moved out under heavy fog. No comms. No insignia. Each team fed false telemetry to mimic standard patrol patterns. What Riley hoped, what she knew, was that the insurgents had tapped the satellite loop and thought they were watching yet another green unit stumble into their web. But this time, the net was already cut. 2 clicks from the designated zone. Riley's vehicle halted. She stepped out, scanned the tree line. Something felt off. Not in the setup, in the silence. Then she saw it. A small pile of rocks. Harmless to the untrained eye. But the spacing, 6 inches between each, it wasn't random. She turned. Tanner, Daz, reverse. Now. Boom. A directional charge detonated 20 meters ahead, just where they would have stepped next. Smoke bloomed. Dirt rained down. Riley ducked, radioed calmly. They're here. Ahead of schedule. Through the static, Harrison's voice. Confirm visual? Riley scanned the tree line again. Not visual. Worse. Negative. They're watching, but not engaging. She grabbed her rifle and turned to her team. They're testing us. Seeing if we flinch. Daz looked uneasy. Why not hit us now? Riley's tone dropped. Because this isn't their play. It's ours. That night, in the abandoned chapel they'd secured as a forward shelter, Riley found herself unable to sleep. She stared at the cracked ceiling, rain tapping on broken stained glass. Malik approached quietly, sitting beside her with 2 mugs of bad instant coffee. You ever think maybe it doesn't matter who outsmarts who? He asked. That this ends the same either way? She took the mug. Didn't answer. He tried again. You lost someone out here? Riley didn't look at him. No. Pause. I lost me. The next morning brought confirmation. Their maneuver had worked. At 0400, an intercepted chatter thread confirmed the insurgents had rerouted a convoy, a decoy to mislead the next blind patrol. What they didn't know, Riley's unit was listening, watching, and tracking. She uploaded the signal trace, ran a predictive analysis, then circled 1 node on the map. This is their comms hub. It's mobile. And if we hit it, we don't just take out their ears. We take out their memory. Wes grinned. That's a kill op. No, she said. That's a surgical memory wipe. The strike team launched at 0300 the next day. No lights, no chatter. Just movement. They found the truck, disguised as a medical transport, at the base of a canyon wall, shielded by 2 civilian vehicles and 4 armed guards posing as aid workers. The team surrounded the site. Riley gave the signal. Flashbangs first. Silence broken by controlled bursts of rifle fire. Daz jammed the frequencies. Malik checked the crates. Tanner looped the drone feed. It was over in 42 seconds. Riley opened the comms truck and stared inside. Banks of hard drives. Satellite relay routers. Maps. Names. 1 file folder marked Echo White. She froze. That was her designation. Before she could process, Tanner called out, We've got incoming. 3 clicks. Move, she snapped. As the truck burned behind them, Riley rode in silence. That file had confirmed what she already feared. This wasn't about tactics. This was personal. Someone wasn't just watching her team. They were watching her. The file marked Echo White changed everything. Inside, satellite logs, intercepted therapy sessions, even drone footage of Riley, alone, in civilian clothes, walking the base perimeter at night. This wasn't surveillance. It was obsession. And then she saw the signature at the bottom of the file. Lieutenant Commander Harrison. The man who vouched for her. The man who put her back in the field. He didn't trust her recovery. He manufactured the mission. Riley made one call. No encryption. No false voice. Just, I know what you did. A beat. Then Harrison's voice, calm and cold. Good. Then you know why it had to be you. She didn't return to base. Instead, she rerouted the team to Outpost Moreau, an abandoned NATO relay station. One entrance. No cameras. No questions. She waited there alone. Harrison arrived 2 hours later. No guards. Just him. Confident. You think this was personal? He said. It wasn't. It was necessary. You were a loose variable. This mission let us measure that. Riley stepped forward. No, you weren't measuring me. You were betting I'd break. He smiled. But you didn't. No, she said. You did. She tossed a burner phone to the floor. Live feed, transmitting everything he said. Straight to Jack. To Intel oversight. To the Secretary of the Navy. Riley disappeared after that. Rumors swirled. That she resigned. That she was quietly reassigned. That she was black bag herself. The truth? 2 years later, a new Black Ops unit started operating out of Eastern Europe. No name. No crest. Just whispers. And, at the center, a woman with a scar above her eye. And a reputation for seeing things coming before they even happened.